Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today I have the pleasure of working with Giuliana from Genovations, and she blows my mind by how much she's doing in her community. Giuliana, what's the story? Like, what are you actually doing at Genovation?
So we provide personalised supports and care to people with disabilities, both living in their own home, living in, kind of SIL type environments, as well as, sort of just helping them out and about in the local community.
Yeah,
Biggest
that,
achievement is our young adult program.
talk about your young adult program, because guys, we need to understand Giuliana is not someone who just turned up. You've been doing this for years. What is it that the young adult program is doing that's really changing lives?
So it's a young adult enrichment program. That's what we've titled it. And it's enriching the lives of young adults living with disabilities, particularly those with complex care. The program was started from, because of my own daughter. I have a 23-year-old daughter with significant complex disabilities. And when she left school, I looked at lots of various programs and I just wasn't overly thrilled with what I saw. And I just thought there's so much more to life for my daughter than what was being offered at the time. So I created a program based on my knowledge and skills of working for the Department of Education in special ed for 12 years, and prior to that working in an adult day program for a few years. So I worked with my husband, and together we created this amazing program for our daughter to live the best life that we know that she can have.
That's so good. Okay, and so let me get this right. If there'd already been something out there that would have looked after your daughter well, you wouldn't have had to do this, would you?
That's right.
So, and then the other thing that goes through a lot of parents' heads is, all right, we're in our, say, 40s. 40 years from now, what's going to happen to my daughter? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so what goes through your head about that? And what are you hoping that Genovations will do for that?
Oh, so that is a very real lived fear every day of parents like my husband and I. And I know it's a fear for a lot of our participants' parents as well. And it is something that I guess on a daily basis I don't allow myself to think about because it just takes you down a really dark path. But the reality is that it kind of hits us in the face all the time about this is the reality of life. My daughter's now 23. My husband and I are hitting 50 and 60, and that very scary reality of life is really kicking in. And who is going to look after her? So a part of Genovation and a part of what we're hoping to achieve is that long-term care. So we're
I get
trying to
that.
build a network of amazing carers and amazing supports within our admin team as well. People who know how to care not only for our daughter, but how to care for the participants that we care for on a daily basis. So in the event that something was to happen to one of our participants, those parents can rest assured that one way or another, Genovation will be there to continue that support for their young adult. I strongly believe with all my heart that if something happened to my husband and I tomorrow, between my admin team and our amazing carers, they would have our daughter covered. So that's what we're kind of trying to establish long term.
That's amazing. So this thing's going to outlive you. And I mean, some people are listening to this on audio, some people are viewing this on YouTube. It's Genovation, GENOVATION.org.au, and that's the website that Juliana and I are right now working on for her. But I'm still blown away thinking about the now, or they're thinking about 5 years from now, and you're thinking decades down the track. So you've created something that basically, the difference between Genovation and pretty much everything else out there is, well, one, you don't do bowling, you don't go to the cinemas. Like, what's behind that? When you guys do outings, there's a big purpose. What's the purpose?
The purpose is to provide something that's meaningful and purposeful for our young adults. So I want to be able to, I guess, from a parent's point of view, I've always wanted my daughter to live the best life that she possibly can. I've always wanted her to be able to have so many experiences that her typical mainstream peers would often experience. I guess for us, we've always wanted our daughter to have friends. That's been the biggest thing because obviously her being nonverbal and her having the complexities that she lives with every day, it's really hard for her to be able to have friendships and maintain them. She relies on adults in order to be able to facilitate those relationships. We have to be the ones that encourage it and then facilitate those friendships because she can't do it on her own. So the meaning or the purpose behind these outings is to create environments and to create experiences where our young adults are sharing these experiences, but it's in a life-filled, fun, happy way that's providing environments where they can just be themselves. They can just be young adults and be goofy and be happy and just experience the world around them. rather than just being sat in a hall or sat in a room or in a house day to day where you think you're instilling everyday life skills into them. But the reality is, my daughter's never going to learn how to cook independently. She's so limited to what she can do every day. So for her, a good day looks like being out in the community, laughing with her friends, interacting with the carers, being goofy, listening to kids' songs, just doing the fun, simple things in life without overcomplicating it. So for her, going to the movies, that's not an enjoyable experience. For her, going bowling, it's fun, but it's not her most engaging experience. But things like ice skating, it is so engaging for her. And every single one of the participants that we take on the ice with their wheelchairs, it's just such a sensory experience for them. They've got the cold air, they've got the different environment, the different acoustics. They've just got that whole different sensory experience, and it just brings them to life. And they just have so much fun. We see our guys out on the ice and they're actually reaching for each other. Their arms are flapping, their faces are smiling and giggling. The carers are happy because the carers are seeing their response. So the carers are also having a great time. They get to do something a bit different. Going down to the beach for the day, we liaise with the local councils and say, right, give us as many wheelchair beach chairs that you've got, because we're bringing half a dozen wheelchair people down there, like, or people in wheelchairs down there. So we organise that with local councils and we get those beach wheelchairs going, and we call on all of our staff and we say, okay, guys, it's hands on deck today. We're all going to the beach, and it's just so much fun, and it's just such a great experience. It's different. It's something that my husband and I would struggle to do with our daughter on the weekends. But to be able to
Wow.
give her that experience through her program with her carers, it's just brilliant. And being a young adult, she doesn't want mum and dad around all the time, right? She wants to be with her friends because she's a whole different young woman when she's out with her carers and her friends than what she is with mum and dad. She's cheeky. She's so much more communicative, and she's just so different. She's a real young woman, just like living her own life. And it's like, I don't need mum and dad right now. I don't want mum and dad. I get to be me with my friends. And I love it.
Wow.
We absolutely love it.
I'm amazed. So, obviously, when we were putting together your website, I saw some video of you interacting with your daughter, of the carers interacting with your daughter, and she may not be able to communicate to them everything that she wishes she could, but they can see that joy. And I guess what goes through my head is I look at how your carers interact with people, and I don't know many people who have carers like yours. I think of, say, the guys at, say, My Treehouse in Newcastle. They've got probably the best carers in Australia. They're amazing. And I look at your carers, and they know people. Like,
Yep.
they're not just caring, as providing care as though it's a noun. They're actively caring. And how on earth did you create a culture where you've attracted this type of carer as opposed to the sit on your phone and scroll through doom scrolling? Like, how did you do that?
We interview very personally. So both my husband and I, we actually do the interviews. Where we can, we'll get participants involved, or we'll, sort of offer up the parents to be a part of the interviews. So it's a collaborative effort. And we have an amazing team leader as well, who has not only lived experience with disability, but she's also got the certificates and the qualifications and the professional experience. So she also brings with it a lot of questions. And I think one thing that comes out of a lot of our interviews is, oh, wow, I've never been asked that before. We give real life scenarios in our interviews to determine how the carers answer those questions. But more importantly, Jake and I, my husband and I, we are on the front line. So we still attend the program. We still go and visit participants in their home. We make it our mission to keep in touch with our carers, to know our carers and to know our participants. So we will call in to the program from time to time just to make sure it's still running to the standard that we're expecting. The other thing is too that we have staff meetings. So we have regular touch base meetings, and they're not formal. They can be quite informal. And it's like, okay, tell us, how's it going for you guys? What are you guys feeling? How are you guys thinking? What's the challenges you're facing, and what are you enjoying? So we get a lot of feedback from our carers as well. But I think most importantly, our carers on the program are also our carers in our home. So they come into our home every day. They see some of the struggles that my husband and I go through. They hear the struggles that we live on a daily basis. So they're an extension to our family. So they have that real lived experience themselves then. They're not just seeing my husband and I as the bosses of the company. They don't just see us as the people who are dictating to them, right, well, here's your contracts, here's all your documents, go and do your job. It's not like that. It's a very, very personal experience at Genovation. They get to know us and we get to know them. They're coming into our home. They're actually coming into the boss's home. So they see firsthand, wow, okay. And the first thing I say to them when they walk into my home is, boss hat off now, you've got mum hat on. So I'm going to talk to you as a mum. And they get that real life experience and they're like, wow, okay, I'm starting to get this, and they connect. So they see Gabby as a
Wow.
person living at home with their parents, and they see that whole family unit. So they get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I get that, and it makes me think of, say, John Gibbons. He's a CEO who I just have so much respect for because he sees people. And when you and Jake are hanging out with people, you're seeing people. In fact, you guys are the least markety people I know.
Yeah.
Okay, you just turn up as yourselves, and I love that. How on earth do you work with your husband, both of you at an executive level, and you've got your daughter in the mix, and somehow your still works, and yet, I mean, I found it so hard to work with my wife because we'd always go home and just talk more work, and it wasn't fun. How the heck do you do that?
I'll be honest, it's not without its challenges. It definitely has challenges and it's not easy. But I think we have to check ourselves in quite regularly. The fun thing is that Jake and I met at work. So we actually met working together in a day program for adults with disabilities. So that's kind of where and then our relationship just kind of blossomed outside of work from there. Then we sort of went our own separate ways for a little while. So after we met at work, then we sort of developed our relationship. And then I went into the Department of Education after our daughter was born and diagnosed. So Jake then went into the Department of Communities and Justice, and I was working for the Department of Education. So we did have quite a few years, sort of working separate jobs and things like that. But then as Gabriella's life kind of kept evolving and we got to the end of her school journey, that's when the day program sort of started to come about and the need for more services came about. So then Jake was still working his job, but then I started to really focus on Genovation and just moving my life and my world into developing Genovation. And then it got to that point where I needed help. So I sort of said to him, I said, listen, you're going to need to make the move across because I need your help. Like I need your expertise and your help. So eventually, yeah, he made that move across from DCJ to Genovation. And as I said, it hasn't been without its challenges, and we could not do it without the support of the amazing team that we have around us, both the admin team and our carers. So yeah, I'm just blessed and so beyond grateful that we've got such a great team around us who see us, they hear us, and they know us. So
That's amazing. That is amazing. And what I love about your husband Jake is that, he's probably 10 years my senior, but he's got his joy. He loves life. He loves seeing people do well. He's fun. He's got a sense of humor. And it's not the characterization you'd expect of a director.
yeah,
Like, you guys are living life. Now, for you guys, you're sort of playing in one way on hard mode, another in easy mode, because you've got multiple businesses. So you're not having to make Genovation always in the black. But how on earth does, like, speaking to the other directors here, how do you balance the fact that you've got to make a profit with you've got real people, and real people are expensive to look after well? How do you do that?
it's hard. It's really tough. And again, it's drawing on the resources that are available to you. Jake and I are not, we're not sort of perfect, and we don't know everything about everything there is to know about running a business. So we really have to call on the expertise of other organizations, of other people, people who understand the systems that we use, people who understand our accounting, people who understand the management side of things. So we have developed a great network of resources, and we network and we have open discussions with people, and we sort of say, help us. What do we do here? And as far as remaining profitable, I think, without sounding naive, that's not our focus. Our focus is not to be running a highly profitable company, which is why we are a not-for-profit charity. Any profits that we do make are certainly poured back into the company, and that's been our motto and our mission from day one. Where the NDIS falls short of providing participants the equipment or the resources that they need, then Genovation will contribute through our fundraising events or our efforts, whatever we can. We will obviously help those participants in that way. All the resources for our young adults on the program, all our profits go back to those resources and equipment for them and things like that. But it's really tough. It is very hard when you've got the industry expenses, things like eye care, things like, registrations, audits, all that sort of stuff, accounting. There is a lot that is very, very expensive. And some fortnights, we are looking at our expenses thinking, wow, we just scraped through that fortnight. But I think it's our passion that keeps us going.
It makes sense. It makes heaps of sense. And then I guess this is another question for directors, but also for parents. How do you and Jake keep joy in your life and keep being humans outside of being parents to someone with additional needs and directors of a lot of high maintenance organisational stuff? Like, how do you do life?
Yep. It took me a very, very long time to learn how to separate the two. Because when you first start up a business, everything is about that business. Your entire life, every breathing minute is about that business, about getting it established, getting the foundations right, and growing it and moving it forward. It's like growing a little baby, right? Your company becomes your little baby and you've got to nurture it and you have to grow it. So it took me a lot of time. Enough's enough. Now it's my time, and that's okay. Whereas my phone is usually stuck to me 24/7. Like, I still have my phone on at night next to my bed. So if there's an emergency through the night, the participants can contact me. So it's hard. But then again, bringing it back to my team, especially my admin team, I have now got that ability where I can say to my team, listen, I'm going to take a break. All right, this weekend, I don't want any calls unless it's an emergency. And they've got it. I have trained them and I have mentored them and I have supported them so much along the way. And again, because we work in such close proximity, they know what I go through every day. And I involve my staff in everything. We are completely transparent. I don't think there's much about this business that our admin staff don't know. And that's just how Jake and I have decided to run it. We've decided to not have that, well, we're the big bosses and you guys don't need to know about this part of the business. Some might look at us and go, you are way too open with your staff. But I don't see that as a problem, because I know that when Jake and I say we need a break, our girls have got it, and they know when to call us and they know when not to call us. And they're like, that's okay, Giuliana, we've got this. We can manage this because you've taught us so well. And I cherish that, and I'm very grateful for that. So, it's just having that ability to remind yourself and to give yourself that self-talk that it's okay. Turn off, it's okay. The company will keep running.
Wow, isn't that interesting? Because there is this point at which we just have to trust that the systems we build are going to work.
Yeah.
They either will or they won't. If they won't, we'll adapt.
Yep.
Okay, so that's amazing. I guess a lot of people have helped you along the way. Like, that's really clear. Like, you're very good at giving credit to others, and you've also got a lot of people to give credit to. Like, for example, I was talking to, say, Angela Harvey, who's a consultant, and she was raving about you. I'm like, how do you know Giuliana? And a lot of people have helped along the way. Who are some of the people and organisations who've been the biggest supporters of what you're doing at Genovation?
Okay, so Angela Harvey at Optimising Potential, she was definitely one big one. Definitely engaged her services there for a little while. I also have to give a mention to Deb Free for My Voice and Rob Manga, who has sadly now passed. But Deb and Rob kind of got me on this path. They were the ones who originally had me under their wing. They taught me a lot about the industry. They taught me a lot about the NDIS and support coordination and service provision. So I was definitely indebted to them for quite a while. They taught me a lot, and I was grateful for the opportunities that they gave me at the beginning. And then I think from there, it's just been linking with any local networks that you possibly can. And then I've had, obviously I've met Bill Shorten along the way, and I've met a few other ministers and local government people along the way. And it's been great that they've given us the time of day to sort of be able to tell our story and to be heard. As a business goes, they've been great to get our participants' voices out there.
That's fantastic. And what brings me joy is that I can see that you're actually role modelling for others how to do marriage well, how to do parenting someone with additional needs well, and how to run an organisation. And I don't see a lot of people who are somehow able to still be in the game doing, like, wearing all those hats. So well done. And I guess you created Genovation so that someone would look after your daughter really well when you're gone. Obviously, the world's going to change in the next 50 years.
Yeah.
but chances are 50 years from now, Genovation will still be looking after your daughter. What are you hoping Genovation will be like in 50 years for people?
What Genovation will be like? Oh, wow, we've got such a big vision for Genovation, and that is to be able to provide that long-term care where our carers will become carers for my husband and I as well as we age. So I think the future for Genovation will be that parents like myself and Jake can rest and relax, whether it be at home or whether it be in a beautiful little community that we would like to create, a living housing community that we would love to create where the parents and the young adults are together being cared for by the same carers. Yeah, and then our young people are very much cared for.
I think that's just remarkable. I think it's more than remarkable. And I'm just popping up on the screen there for people who are watching this on YouTube. It's genovation.org.au. I love it, the study website. Imagine if a few families went on a picnic together. Like, that's just what you guys are. You know, like, you're just going and living life together. If someone wants to get in touch with you, Giuliana, they know to go to Genovation, genovation.org.au, and it's like, you've done amazing things. You've built something that's worth investing your life in, and you've supported so many other people along the way. Thank you so much for what you're doing.